Record, 6 goals in a match.
In 1976, disenchanted with English football and tired of being hounded by the British press and media, Best headed west.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just open up. Don't be
Playing in America, I think everybody's still talking about that marvellous goal you scored for San Jose.
Big American networks actually showed it on their programme, which for them was, I think it's the only time they've ever shown football, soccer as they called it. It was nice because I was playing against one of my former teams, the team I'd played for the season before, and we were losing 2-0, and it was the playoffs. I mean, so if we lost, we were out. It was, I don't know, it was just one of those things. It just, they kept disappearing. I don't know what it was. I remember watching it the first time, and I was actually counting how many players. It was just one of those marvellous things, It was a one-off, and even though it was in America, I remember someone saying once that called Cubillas, played for Peru, who was brilliant. That a couple of lads who played in English 4th Division, and they can get stuck in as well. So I mean, it didn't matter if that had been on a park with 7 and 8-year-olds. It still would have been a great goal. So it gave me a lot of pleasure. And as I said, we were losing till I made it 2-1. I scored the second goal, funny enough. Went to overtime, and I hit the bar and centre forward knocked it in. So the whole game, it wasn't a bad game overall. Yeah.
In January 1978, George married English model Angela McDonald-Janes in Las Vegas. They have a 6-year-old son, Callum Milan Best. The couple are now divorced, but still friends, as we discovered on our visit to Blonde's Club in Mayfair. George is there to meet the customers, his management company has an interest in the club, Angie also works for the club in a public relations capacity.
George is a man who very rarely says no to people. He's played in 150 testimonials that I can think of. He's never said no to anybody who needed him. And I don't think that the Irish people on a whole should say no when he needs them. I think that you should pay homage to him now while he's still here, not when he's dead. And his good points are unfathomable. I mean, you know him as a person. And to know him is to love him. He doesn't really have bad points, either than most of the sons of Ireland have the bad points that George has, and that's an affliction which most of them have. Which is one we forgive, by the way.
You are divorced, but I do get the impression you're still very fond of the man.
Oh, you can't help but be fond of him.
At the same time you were playing in America, you were playing at Fulham with Rodney Marsh. There didn't seem to be any pressures then at all. It seemed to be a very happy time.
Well, Rodney and I played the same way. We played for fun, and we're both, I like to think, well, I know that Rodney says the same. We're entertainers, apart from being footballers and sportsmen. And if, I remember the games at Fulham, it was fun. We were laughing and joking and enjoying ourselves. And the fact that the cameras were turning up at games, like we were playing Hereford, and there was 25,000 people there, and the cameras were there. It was just, and I mean, Rodney came out with a classic of all time when he went to America about English football. Said it was a grey game played by grey people on grey days, and that's what was happening to the game. And we come back, and for those short couple of years, everything was all, people were laughing, you know, the crowds were coming back, and we did it for fun. It was nice, and it was the 2 seasons we were there were tremendous.
Best. Right out for a shimmy. Oh, a yard of space. A delightful little chip there to Mitchell. Brilliant play again by George Best. Nicely placed pass again for Mitchell. Marsh. Touched in again. It'll come now through to Barrett. Marsh on the far side wanting the cross, and yet another corner for Fulham. Well, it's all Fulham at the moment with 20 minutes gone, no score. Barrett again with it. Ernie Howe up in there, Mitchell, Marsh. On the edge of the area is Best. Carter getting it away. Slough. Mitchell setting a little dummy. Slough going through. That's the goal by Alan Slough. Lindsay now to Burrows. Oh, a bit of space there for Davey. He's gone through them. Is this the equaliser? Good save by Fiedemera. And cut push now to Best. Space ahead of him. Terry Payne coming back as hard as he can. Payne still after him. Still Best going on. Tripped. Free kick. And Fulham quickly getting on with the game. The ball with Marsh. A touch now for Cutbush. Hit low there. And it'll come now for Evanson. Oh, a tremendous goal. 2-0. Best. Strong for Fulham. Moore heading that one away. And now Marsh and Best are up. Best inside his own half. Marsh brought down. And Best on his way. Now he's got Tyler to beat. Oh, and in the end, Burrows came up so quickly to dispossess him. And Marsh remonstrating with the referee that he was bowled over away in his own half. Strong. Free kick, right on the edge of the box, given away by Galley. Who's had a fairly rumbustious afternoon, this big number 5 of Hereford. Another smile. And they're cooking up something. Bobbed up by Best. Hit by Marsh. In fact, there was a handball before it came to Ernie Howe. Here's Best again, from that pass by Marsh. Played on now for Mitchell. Marsh and Best are right up there. Curled it just wide. That was John Mitchell turning on the style a little bit. Mitchell. Best again. Now taking on Burrows. There's Best. Oh, and saved by Charlton and saved well.
A couple of top strikers who played against Best were Scotland's Ian St John and England's Jimmy Greaves, better known nowadays as the Saint and Greavesy, 2 of television's most popular soccer pundits. I joined them in the Saint and Greavesy studio in London, and as you'd expect, the discussion had its lighter moments. But soccer's best-known double act also gave frank opinions about one of the world's top solo artists.
We were all footballers, but he was a little bit special because he could do things, just spontaneous things that only a genius could do. And I just feel very aggrieved that George couldn't handle the situation he was in and play right through his career, because we as fellow players at the time missed him when he left. And I'm sure that millions of fans, not only in the UK but around the world, missed George Best on the big stages of the world, you know.
And looking how it all went wrong for him, Jim, do you feel he was unlucky being a good-looking Irishman with a twinkle in his eye?
There's no such thing as a good-looking Irishman, Jack.
Looking
Come
at how
on.
you said that.
No, well, he
Thank
might
you,
have a
Jim.
twinkle in his eye, but that's about it. No, I feel with George Best there was a problem from the off. You see, I've got a feeling that there are a lot of people that can't carry the burden of being a genius, and I think George Best was a genius.
Well, I mean, you look at the great players of today, the Maradonas of the world. I mean, the pressure that boy gets, I mean, all around the world. You know, I mean, he goes around with a dozen security guards, but he's able to handle it.
George was a born natural footballer who came from Ireland, and I don't think he could live with the situation within himself, not with anybody else, but within the pressure built up in his own mind and his own body.
Let's talk about the testimonial.
Testimonials usually are for players who have really put something into the game. And this is a testimonial, it's a thank you, isn't it? Now, you couldn't say that George really put an awful lot into the game for his country or his clubs, because he packed in when he was like a 27-year-old. And during that time, I mean, he went absent quite a bit and gave a lot of people some aggravation, you know, including Matt Busby and everybody else after that. George has had a lot of chances in life.
Sure, I appreciate everything you're saying, Ian. All I'm saying, though, is when you say that he didn't give a lot to the game, you know, I saw one game of George Best is equivalent to 10 years of another player's mediocre performances, who also earn a lot out of the game and really put very little back.
The original decision to veto the game sparked off an outcry from the public, but many still felt he didn't deserve the testimonial, claiming that George could have played more times for his country. How does he defend himself against that accusation?
If I hadn't spent 10 years in America, I probably would have got close to Big Pat, playing wise. So I lost 10 years almost, you know, because I wasn't living in this country. So that cost me a lot of caps. And also when I played at United, we were always in Europe, you know, so a lot of the times when Northern Ireland were playing, Manchester United were playing. But there again, at the end of the day, you're leaving it up to the general public. You know, if someone thinks I don't deserve it, you know, they don't have to come. If someone wants to come and say thank you in whatever way they want to, that's also up to them. I mean, I've never ever refused anyone as far as playing for them is concerned. I've played in between 300-400 testimonials, and I do it because, you know, I do it out of respect for other players, and that's why not only the players who are going to come, but the people who are going to come, they're going to come, I hope, out of respect from the football side of it. Because I don't think many times I've played at Windsor Park there were many empty seats.
He's a very complex person. I think you find this in any walk of life when you're dealing with a genius, irrespective of what they're doing. And George was a genius as a footballer, and he thinks and acts and behaves like a genius. Quite eccentric in his own way, but tremendous guy with it.
Looking at his international career, no one knew George better than goalkeeper Pat Jennings, a legend in his own right who won 119 caps, a world record. Best, his roommate on Northern Ireland trips, only played 37 times for his country.
Playing for Ireland, Georgie Best, who usually plays with Bobby Charlton for Manchester United. But this time, Charlton robs him of the ball. England force a corner, and Charlton's accurate kick is met by Martin Peters, who puts England in the lead with a driving downward header. It stayed like that until half-time. England were finding the Irish team hard to beat midfield, and they were sometimes struggling against well-planned Irish attacks. Then the equaliser came from Best, who beat Nobby Stiles before crashing the ball into the net.
You were his roommate in the early days with the international team, and you were very close friends. What sort of a character was he then?
Basically the same fella as what I know now. Very, very quiet fella. And I don't think he's changed. It's just people's attitude toward him has changed over the years.
When he was at his peak as a player, how would you have rated him?
Over the last 23 years, without a doubt, the best player I've seen. I'd put him well on a par with Maradona, and I've played with him and against him in the last 2 years. Just, as I say, in a class of his own. We've had our great players in this country, the Graveses, Charltons, Laws, and George was definitely a pedestal above them.
Well, I can never sort of say who's the greatest in football. How can you compare Pelé, Maradona, Johan Cruyff and say that one of them is actually the greatest? You can't. But I would say that George Best lives alongside those names, and there was never a better player than George Best.
Did you see any signs of it going wrong for him, Dennis?
I suppose maybe towards the late 60s, when Samat, who had had a turret, terrible injury in the crash. You know, he wasn't at his best, and maybe towards there when George started to sort of maybe go on the blink a little bit. Maybe some art wasn't sort of hard enough or tough enough, because I remember when I went on the blink in the early 60s, I soon got a rap over the head. Matt was not too well, and maybe at that time George should have been told maybe to calm down a little bit.
People could see where he was going and were trying to warn him. People like Sir Matt Busby, I presume, I'm no doubt he will tell you this, tried to say that if you're not careful, this is what happened. And everybody hoped that George Best would never get into this situation, which he almost seems to be in now, you know, in a void, out of the game, not really thought of a lot, and it's a tragedy, really.
Maybe we should have all helped a bit, but, you know, we've got our own life to lead as well. He was a terrific player. He did, the one thing he did do, whatever was said about him, when he went on the pitch, he, as they say in the trade, he did the business, and really that what it was all about. So there's no blame to anybody. I don't think anything would have changed or would change if he had to have his life over again.
I was Football of the Year in '73, and straight away that brings more pressure. So from that point of view, I could see just what he was going through, having to play to the pressures of being the best football in the country. I had it for a couple of years, but he had it week in, week out for all the years that he played.
Would you be critical, though, because he couldn't withstand those pressures? And after all, you were at the top for over 20 years.
Yeah, no, I'd never be critical of something like Best. But, no, it's very, very hard for him. I mean, I would think probably that the problems that maybe Manchester United had at that time, they were going through a very bad spell. And I would say that he kept them in the first division for a couple of years on his own. And I think that was probably at his best time. And perhaps maybe he felt that he should have been playing in European competitions every other week. And I think probably that tired him more than anything.
You've done many things, you've achieved many things. You've also had your problems, which have been well chronicled. Mm-hmm. Have you enjoyed life in the fast lane, or have you regrets?
I've enjoyed life in the fast lane, and now I'm enjoying it in the bus lane. I've had good times and bad times, but I think at the end of the day, I'll always remember the good times. The bad times, I try and put them out of my mind. The old problem, the drink problem, is always going to be there. I mean, I don't kid myself anymore. I used to think I'll beat it one day. I don't worry about it now. If I beat it, I'll beat it. If I don't, I don't. And I'd rather think like that than drive myself crazy worrying about it.
In this programme, we've seen the best genius. But what if he was playing today? Would he fit into the modern game? Would he enjoy it? And what would his value be on the transfer market?
You couldn't buy him today. When I see the likes of somebody was quoting John Barnes as good as George Best, you know, it's a great player, John Barnes, and a highly exciting player, and he was £1 million. No comparison.
To have a skill like that, I mean, they would pull the stadium down probably if he was here and you actually thought of selling him. At that particular time, it's just unheard of, and you couldn't put a value on him. The way that it seems to have gone, I think it probably is more than likely that he would have been tempted abroad. In which case, at the present time, you know, you're talking about a few £1 million, good few £1 million.
Dear. Well, when you see some of the players being transferred for, I don't know, 2 million, 3 million, George Best is probably in the top, say, 6 players that the game has ever seen as being one of the top 6. So if Maradona's worth 5 million, George Best's got to be worth 5 million.
I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, in the early days there was players like the lad Daly at Wolverhampton, Robson, Andy Gray. They went, 10, 12 years ago for £1.5 million. I wouldn't have a clue, you know. I would say probably 5 million, cheap at the price. We're talking about 10, 12 years ago.
When one looks at Maradona being sold for £5-6 million, I would say George would be at least worth £10 million. I'll give you an example of the sort of esteem in which George is held. Maradona was travelling over from Italy to watch England and Brazil, and I know on very good authority that the first question that he asked when he got on the plane to come here was, could I please meet George Best?
How would you like to be remembered? Windsor Park earlier this evening when a near-capacity crowd had assembled in spite of the rain for the soccer showpiece of the year, the George Best testimonial. And in the dressing room, alongside some of the game's biggest names and best-known faces, the main attraction is getting ready.
Well, relieved that it's... I'll just be glad to get out. As soon as the kick-off, it's all the hard work's done, you know, all the boys are here. And it's just going out now and enjoying it, and hopefully the fans will be the same. As I say, the hard part, all the little worries and the little problems, they're all behind us now, and we've ended up with two tremendous squads, and it's just going to be a good night, you know. Looking forward to it tremendously.
And just listen to this welcome. George Best, son Callum, alongside him, the entrance of a superstar. He said he's been looking forward to this moment. He said it would be emotional. And after a welcome like this, he must be really choked. This is what tonight is all about. And an amazing sight here at Windsor Park. Everyone on their feet to welcome the main attraction. Well, here's the George Best lineup and some great names, both past and present here. Jennings, the West German, Paul Breitner. From Holland, there's Rudy Krol. From England, Dave Watson, Emlyn Hughes. Add to that, Brady, Henderson, McAvenny, Michael O'Neill. And guess who's wearing number 11? Looking at the international 11, more top names. From the past, Johan Neeskens and Johnny Rep, both of Holland. From the present, there's Ozzy Ardiles, Roy Aitken, the Celtic and Scotland captain, Trevor Francis from Queen's Park Rangers and England, and some Northern Ireland names here, Alan McKnight, Alan McDonald, Colin Clark and David McCreary. And two Linfield players, Darren Coyle and George O'Boyle. It'll be quite a night for those two young men. So we get underway with the George Best 11 side, wearing the green striped shirts, playing from left to right. The international 11 in the red and white shirts. A superb occasion. Sadly, the weather hasn't matched up, but the pitch in immaculate condition. I assume the game will be fairly easy paced in these opening stages. Great ball from Brady. Not a great touch, first touch for George Best. This really is the biggest crowd we've seen at Windsor Park since the Pat Jennings testimonial in December 1986. George scored a goal that night, George Best. I wonder if the script tonight includes a goal from the man himself. George O'Boyle. Nice skills from Liam Brady. McAvenny finds Brady. Michael O'Neill. Best is wide and plenty of space. This is what the fans want. Good ball, in goes McAvenny. It's not away yet, it is now. So the first corner kick of the game to the George Best 11. The right foot. O'Neill puts it back in. And that's Ardiles. O'Neill running out of space. A chance for the international 11 to break. This is Colin Clark. Plenty of men in the middle. Trying to barge his way through. A chance and a goal. He can't believe it. Dealer's putting plenty into the game so far. Here's Clark. Still Clark. They're in the middle. Ardiles just can't find the space. It's with O'Boyle. Francis. Still Francis. The left foot. And he finished perfectly. Great goal from Trevor Francis. Ardiles and Francis should catch this. Ardiles, Clark, will he try one? He might now. Lovely dummy. Is it 3-0? It's not. And here's George. And you heard the buzz come up again there. Lays it inside. Brady. Breitner. Best. First time. Henderson. Plenty of green shirts in the middle. That's Rudy Kroll pushing forward. Brady. The space this time. And the left foot straight and through. Lovely play from Wayne Brady. But here come the Reds again. Trevor Francis. Just too high for Georgia Boyle. Rep. Kroll in the way. Ardiles. Nice cool play from Dave Watson. Best. The rain still pouring down here. The umbrella's up, but the crowd enjoying this. Lovely open football. O'Neill. McAvenny. Still McAvenny! I was going to say great goalkeeping, but it's crept over the line. And smiles from Frank McAvenny. It's 2-2. So some 17 minutes gone, and we've had 4 goals. It's all square at 2 apiece. O'Boyle makes the run. Dave Watson lets him go. Some people, of course, were against the idea of this testimonial, but this crowd, the response for the tickets would suggest many more were for it. People here tonight for this game from America, from Canada. The ticket applications, well, they came from every corner of the British Isles. Such is the reputation of George Best. In fact, Ulster Television had requests from many European television stations for pictures of this game. George Best, a name well known in Europe, and he really did put the name of Northern Ireland soccer on the map. O'Neill, but just cut offside. Ozzy Ardiles. And here's a chance for Georgia Boyle to make a name for himself. And he does. Lovely goal by the Linfield youngster. Francis finds Colin Clark. All the way across to Darren Coyle. Johnny Rep. Trevor Francis. Lovely chip, and just over. Lovely skills from Trevor Francis. He enjoyed that. There's the skill. Saul Jennings off the line slightly, but just inches away. McAvenny for the best 11. And here's Best in full flight. Cuts inside. Confronted by McCreary. Looked to curl it. Still Best. Breitner. Is it 3-3? It is. And he's worked hard for that, Paul Breitner. Francis. And there's a great goal. I think it's Colin Clark. It is. Francis. Hughes had turned away from that one. but he got it cleared. Best finds the other little man, Willie Henderson, looking for help, finds it in Best. Emlyn Hughes pushes forward. Michael O'Neill. The green shirts looking for an equaliser, of course, just before half-time. It might come. Rudy Kroll. Good effort. Good effort from the big Dutchman. Here's Brady. The left foot, the chip, and it's for each. And that is brilliant. We're now into injury time in this first half. It's been slow paced, but it's been very entertaining. There goes the whistle now. I was saying it's been slow paced, but it's been very entertaining. The crowd showing their appreciation. Ardiles. Clark. Johnny Rep. McDonald. Falls for Trevor Francis. They're all getting in each other's way. And a chance for the Greens to break forward. With Wayne Brady. Kasky making a run. Emlyn Hughes, has he the pace? Gives it to Best. Hughes again. McCoy tries to place it, and he does it beautifully. Raymond McCoy from Coleraine. Here's Paul Breitner. Best. The crowd urging him on. That looks like a very good ball. McCoy. Brady looking for a hat-trick. Best against Darren Coyle. Heads for the line. Looked for the chip, but Alan McKnight equal to it. Dave Watson leaves it for Kroll to McCoy, who's just put his side 1 goal in front. Rudy Kroll. Best again. Tries the chip. That's what we've waited for. And look at the size of that smile. And he couldn't have scored a better one. Here's Emlyn Hughes. Best. Flicks it up. Left foot this time. Brady, but offside. Chris Hutton. So 10 minutes left. 10 goals we've had. The best 11, 6. The international 11, 4. The biggest talking point of the night. We've had a few good goals, but we had a great one from the main man, George Best. Johnny Rep finds Aiken. Francis. Aiken going through, scored the first goal of the night. He's got plenty to aim at, and that's, would you believe it, Bill McMurdo. It was a good goal. Paul Breitner. Breitner again. Still Breitner. Emlyn Hughes, is it his turn? It's not. Holds his head. I don't think it was that wide, Emlyn. Francis to Rep, to Francis. Are we looking at an equaliser here? Colin Clark. Aiken tries to guide one. Almost made it. Big tough player is Roy Aiken. Dunlop gave it straight to Trevor Francis. And it's 6-6. "12 goals, 6 apiece. 13, not this time. Penalty kick. I think there may be some protests about that. But referee Donnelly had no hesitation. I wonder who'll take it. I think it might just be the number 11. The 13th goal of the game. It is. With just under 4 minutes left, he must be feeling tired now. In fact, the referee has called a halt. He may have thought the players were feeling the pace. My watch may be wrong, but the game is over. 7-6 for the George Best 11. The score doesn't really matter. It's been a feast of football. We've had a capacity crowd, and it's been a great tribute to one of the greatest players the world has ever seen. It's been a marvellous night for him, Pat Jennings.
Yes, delighted. Fantastic turnout, both player-wise and supporters. Great night.
And the supporters have really enjoyed it. The players have enjoyed it. And it is great to see so many great players, both past and present, coming to Belfast to pay tribute to that man there. Well, George, Best, the end of the big night. Your side have won the game. Let me take you back to the start. What about the welcome?
Oh, phenomenal. I mean, it was just... I expected a good way, but you can't. I mean, you can't explain it. You know, the crowd were fabulous. You know, it's pouring down with rain, and they're standing here as if they didn't have a care in the world. You know, absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
They were wanting you to score, and eventually you did. What about the chip?
Yeah, I thought I was never going to go in. Alan McKnight was brilliant. He was pulling them out from all over the place. At first, I was pleased with it. I mean, I just spotted him off his line. I thought, well, I'll go for it. And I think the second one might have been a bit contrived, but
I think there'll be arguments about the decision.
Yes, I think if it was a World Cup final, it might have been a bit of a fuss. But I'm pleased with the first one. And the crowd saw some fantastic goals. I mean, a couple of great goals. Liam Brady scored a great goal. Clarkey stuck one in, fabulous. And you know, they showed how the game should be played. Just a great night all around. I couldn't have planned it better. Brilliant. And then at the end, what a send-off you got. Yeah, even more special. You know, the welcome was tremendous, but the whole thing, you're running around with my little fella there. And he said to me, "I'm nervous, Dad." I said, "You're nervous? How do you think I feel?" Just a great finish, yeah, terrific. And the best boots, are they put away now? I don't know. To be quite honest, it would seem a shame for me to come back and play here again, because that was special. It really was. I'll maybe play abroad in a few exhibitions and charity games, but that'd be a nice one to finish off in Belfast. So the end of a really special football occasion here at Windsor Park in Belfast tonight. The George Best testimonial. The final scoreline, George Best 11, they won by 7-6. The score is not important. The capacity crowd came here tonight to pay tribute to one of the best players the world has ever seen. We hope you've enjoyed the highlights from all of us at Windsor Park. It's good night.